The Oracle called it the One Kick from Glory Oracle. Matt is his name. Get to know. Get to know. He called it, it's the year of the underdog across England, throughout Europe, and for the Women's Champions League special winners. Unexpected victories, unexpected titles compared to the previous season, and so much fun along the way. We're here to talk about what has been an unexpected year for the underdogs. A year where you could probably say football is back, depending on who you support. And another year where Manchester United left scratching their heads thinking, what are they going to do next? Will they keep wallowing in mediocrity? Will Amarin figure it out? Or will someone else, maybe Jose, come back, save the day? I'm just saying. Also, Ronaldo's now a free agent, so they could try that experiment again. But we'll talk about all these things and more in this episode of One Kick from Glory. It's just me and Matthew here today.
Oracle is here.
And we're going to recap what has been a great season. And we're going to start off with the victory that we felt, I wouldn't say the one I felt closest to my heart, because that's going to be the third topic we cover today, and we'll get into that and you'll understand why. But one that I feel like we all appreciate as a podcast group, and that was, of course, was the FA Cup win for Crystal Palace. A historic day, their first ever trophy in football, as they've been referred to on this club, the South London Culture Club, a club that means so much, a club where one of Arsenal's greatest ever players has played for, a club where we're seeing greats spawning, we're seeing Barclays man, VAR man, as they're now being referred to, for the modern era player that fits that kind of iconic moniker. But for you, Matthew, how impressed were you with what Crystal Palace were able to do in the FA Cup this season?
They absolutely turned up for the event. The players, the management, the mascots, the cheerleaders, particularly the fans, there was just this kind of like belief that this was going to be their year, because they've been there before not that long ago, and unfortunately on that day it didn't kind of work out. But this time it just seemed something a bit more assured about this team, that no matter what happened in this final, they were going to give City an absolute run, and that's exactly what they did. They had to really defend at times. They got the great goal from Eze, because of course he had to score. It was just for his day, like his tournament or something. And it was just nice to see how much it meant to the players and to the fans. One of the most heartwarming things you see is the fans in the stadium, the fans from home, because City are like they're Galactica right now. They're that level where they're the ones selling the shirts. They're the ones getting all the advertising. They're the ones getting the attention. Got obviously with a world-class manager like Pep and world-class players like De Bruyne, Haaland, Foden and all that lot. Crystal Palace, they're a family club. They're like, you go down to the point that that's their stadium. Literally, if anyone knows where it is, it's in the middle of a housing estate off a damn street. Okay, I've checked where I work. I've seen where it kind of literally where it is. It's that kind of club. It's sitting in the middle of all these residencies, and so people walking down all the streets. Small club, like old, like stadium that possibly needs updating sort of thing. But it doesn't matter, because everyone's there to watch a good game of football with the players that really have a connection with, like players who have grown up, players who have been brought into, understand what it means to being a part of a culture club like Crystal Palace, representing South London like as a whole with like pride, and just kind of like having just that South London energy about them. You know what I mean? And the players get that, everyone else gets that, and it's to win your first piece of silverware ever is going to go down for them. They'll remember this for the rest of their lives. The players will remember this for the rest of their lives, because it meant so much to a lot of people, because it's another proof of the season that the football that we know and love in a way that's, it's open to everyone. It's very slowly coming back, but it was a great day. And you know what? It was even me and my wife were watching, because being QPR and supporting Eze, back when he was there, it meant so much to a lot of people. I think a lot of QPR fans have been so happy for him just to be the man of the moment. You know what I mean? So great game, great day, great final. So very happy for them. Very, very happy.
Yeah, he turned up a lot for them in this cup run. I mean, semi-final, crucial performance, crucial involvement. I think got a goal as well in the semi-final.
He did got goals, yeah.
And then to get the only goal in the final, I think that's what you really want as a fan. You want to see your best players step up and make the moments count. He did that. Also, Dean Henderson as well in goal. Brilliant penalty save. Brilliant blocks and saves throughout the whole game. good way of just killing this, taking momentum out of the game when he needed to. He had an amazing game, and I think another player that you look at and think when it comes to the England setup, he's going to now just looking to put pressure on Pickford ahead of the next World Cup to maybe take a claim for number 1 spot. You know, Eze will be also looking to kind of put himself in a position where he can be one of the key starters for Thomas Tuchel. I almost said Gareth Southgate for a second. Oh, Stockholm syndrome. But yeah, for Thomas Tuchel and see what, you know, that he can do in national team front. And, you know, for Thomas Tuchel now, he's got 2 players that have come off the back of a great season, looking to build on it. Let's see what happens next for them. I mean, there's already been rumours of clubs sniffing around Eze. We know from last summer, Man City were looking to try and make something happen there. They may come back this season. We know that Bayern Munich are rumoured to be looking at him, and they might want to link him back up with Elise again. So that's another thing. We know other clubs that could do with a player like him. You know, Arsenal could do with a player like him. Chelsea could. Man United could do with lots of players from Crystal. I mean, they could do with the whole Crystal Palace squad. It might help them get somewhere. But I'll come back to Man United soon. Don't worry. But you know, there's a lot of players and teams who could take key place from Palace, and I hope they're able to keep together. And the man that has been so monumental in all that is Oliver Glasner. We've talked up his record in his previous clubs. We've talked up how well he is performing as a coach. But for you, I think seeing the fact that he's done this in Germany, taking the club to winning a cup tournament there, taking them to win the Europa League as well, how important do you think it is that Palace have given him a platform to shine, and now that they can look to maybe look up in terms of the players look to buy? Because Kamada, as Arsenal fans know, he's one of the people that helped end Emery's reign at the Emirates. So for me, Daichi Kamada, I always have love for that player because he came and he embarrassed my club at the Emirates. But hey, it was for the greater good. But how important do you think it is that Palace now really just, you know, further support Glasner as much as they have so far?
I think they're going to look around. I've said this many, many times before. A club like a Palace that can get into the upper echelon of certifying their mid status, like the Premier League certified status. They're going to look at other clubs around them who are doing the exact same thing that they are. You know, look at teams like Newcastle, they're doing it. Their rivals Brighton, they're doing it. Bournemouth are on the cusp of doing it because they're in the top half of the table for a very long time. Even former Premier League giants like Forest and Villa, they've come back, and considering, especially for a team like Forest, who were relegation fodder at one point, to then get into Europe firmly in like the top 4 for how long? The same with Aston Villa. The clubs around them are pushing up for that exact same thing. So thinking, why not do it? Let's get a manager in that's has done it before at a club of a similar level, bring them in some silverware, upgrade them into different competitions, and let's build this club up to a point where we are. There's no guarantee they're going ahead and win the Europa League, but let's go ahead and start competing in it. Because in the way that it works with, similar to the way how the Champions League was a table, it could work in their favour because the pressure's kind of off. It opens up, you know, lots of competition. And considering the season they just had, they're going to be looking at other players who can eventually to come in. Let's say if they do lose an Eze, which I'm kind of hoping they don't do, because let's say if you can take them to all the way further on in Europa, as well as having a good Premier League season, there's absolutely no want or need for him to go anywhere from that club if they can establish himself as a club legend. You know, so it's a good thing the owners actually, because they had a bit of a slow start at the season from the Premier League. Very, very slow, but they've just kind of kept that kind of trust because they know what the guy can do, they know what the players can do. Obviously, losing Elise was a big, big hole to fill, but they kept on working, they kept on going. They acquired some other transfers that, you know, would fit their bill, like Nketiah for instance. You know, kind of fit, he needs to embrace himself a little bit more, but I think he'll eventually come good. But they'll be looking around at their rivals. Like I said, they're looking at their rivals as a stepping point of they're doing it, why can't we do it? And this is probably the best example because they've probably done one better than all of them by winning some silverware with respect to Newcastle, obviously. So he's done a fantastic job, really, really good job. And I really hope that he keeps the success for next season and see what else they can do.
Yeah, it's going to be really important that they build on it. And obviously they've got the Europa League to look forward to now. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to make a bold prediction. Like, considering the quality of the final we've seen, and we're going to talk about that next, where do you think Palace could go with the Europa League run? Like, what would you say would be a good landing point for them? I mean, for me personally, I think whatever happens is a good landing point. Just being in the tournament in and of itself is a massive achievement, but they've got a taste of victory now. They might want a bit more. How do you see that panning out for them?
If they got as far as, say, the round of 16, I'll take that. If they got as far as round of 16, because you see how for a lot of teams, not so much going for your domestic competitions. They are domestic competitions. You kind of know where you stand on those. You know, you can still have a good domestic run and still finish decent in the league. In Europe, it's very different because you're traveling to all these far off places. A lot of you have never known, especially in like the lower European league, so the Europa Conference League and the Europa League, where you're flying off to like wherever it is on a cold Thursday night, knowing full well you got a game probably 2 to 3 days later in the Premier League. It's a tough ask. It's a really, really tough ask, all that traveling, all that jet lag. So I'm going to say it could take an impact on their Premier League form. It normally always does. Nothing to feel guilty about. If they got to round of 16, I'll be like, fair play, you've given it a go, but your main bread and butter, the success isn't worth anything if your league form takes an absolute tanking. So take it to round of 16, get a good taste of it, and you know, if you get a decent finish in the Premier League, who knows? You might see yourself there again.
No, I think round of 16 is not a bad shout. I mean, I think if they are able to bring in additional reinforcements and have, like they've showed in this season when they were getting towards the back end of the cup run, they were able to rotate out their key players, give them a bit of a break and switch out the front three, you know, start people like Nketiah over Mateta, you know, do rest Sarr for a bit. If they can have a few more options, because they'll have the young guy, Romain S, I think his name is. He will be, you know, second season now at Palace, so he'll look to start a lot more games, play a lot more minutes. So he could be a player that could definitely help with rotating out other players. So that they could do last round of 16. They could go even further. I think the key thing will be if they get to that point, round of 16, if they are around where they are right now, well, they finished the season in 12th position. So if they're around that place, and you know the league form's looking good, and they're like a couple of points off, say for example from there to 8th, because it could be another tight season again. They might just keep pushing.
Why they can't do it?
And they may even have another good cup run. Like they might get the Carabao next season instead of the FA Cup.
Who's to know, man?
So, but what I'm really glad for them is that they took advantage of the opportunity that came their way. They had a chance to do something special for their club. They did it for their fans. Man City are not an easy team to play against, but they found a way. And what I've found a lot is that you have to find a way. Otherwise, you end up second place again, and not much to shout about for the men. But we'll get onto that in a little bit. But first, we want to talk about North London rivals, Tottenham Hotspur. Couple claps for you. You know, well done for winning the Europa League, and congratulations, Man United, for losing the Europa League. It's quite astounding the impact that, you know, we could have coined that in seasons past, El Sakago Part 2.
Yeah.
Because we've had them already. Literally felt like loser might lose their job, but Amarim's already come out and said he's still going to be around. So I guess it didn't mean anything. And we don't know. There's still lots of talk that he might not be there next year. But he did say it. He called it. He said in the second season, I win, and he did. And so for that, I'm going to give Ange a bigger clap, because I have a lot of time for managers who back their chat and who believe in themselves, and who, even though their methods and their playing style might be a bit funky, at the end of the day, he delivered on what he said he was going to deliver on. And I have so much respect for that. Like, that's one reason why I like Mourinho. Like, if you back your chat, I've got time for it. When you speak a lot and you can't deliver what you speak on, it's a problem for me. So I'm really happy for what Ange did. Only Ange alone. But, you know, that's really all I have to say about Tottenham. Man United, on the other hand, because, actually, before we move on to Man United, you know, it's good parallel season for Son and for Harry Kane, you know, first trophies in their careers. Both of them suffered a long time at mediocre clubs. But, you know, unlike Son, Kane saw sense and moved to a giant. Cost them he didn't cost them, but they flopped his first year, and, you know, they course corrected this season. So well done to him. And Son, you know, trophy each, that's really good. Maybe now Son can look to move on to pastures new in the summer and carry on that winning feeling. You know, just saying. But if not, that's fine. Tottenham is a good place for you to be. You know, you've got your trophy now, so that's it for your career. You can be happy with that. Manchester United, how do you lose a final that you had to win, knowing the implications, not just in terms of the players you can approach this coming summer, but the money implications, because now apparently one of your sponsors, you have to pay them money back because you haven't gotten into Europe. It's a mess. And we cannot forget the fact that when Amorim took over, they were in 8th position. I think they were 6 points off top 4, something silly like that. They ended the season in 15th place on 42 points, which, as we know, 40 points is enough for survival. Tottenham ended it in 17th on 38 points, which in any other season would have seen them relegation. And Man United would have probably just been just above it. So...
wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild.
I mean, how do you... Because it's funny... And I feel personally invested in Man United's downfall as a fan who's grown up seeing them tormenting my team with dodgy refereeing, dodgy footballing decisions, and at times brilliance. So the brilliance part I'll give you guys props for, but everything else, it's been annoying to see this club rip apart my club year in, year out. I've not forgotten the 8-2. I've not forgotten the 50th game at Old Trafford. I have not forgotten the FA Cup semi-final in the Invincible season when we played you and you beat us 2-1. I've not forgotten these games. They stick hard. I've not forgotten the Champions League semi-final Ronaldo rocket free kick and the counter-attacking goal for Rooney. I've not forgotten that. I have not forgotten Nani juggling the ball in the corner flag at Old Trafford.
That's a lot of baggage.
It's not so much baggage, you know. I see it as retribution dealt out slowly. And I feel like for every year you've wronged the club, Man United, you're going to continue suffering. So there's still plenty more to come. But anyway, Matthew, what's your thoughts on Man United so far?
It's wild, like, because it's not even just the football that's a mess. The whole club is a mess. They are running out of... We talk about other clubs spending money here, there, and everywhere, and they are probably the most guilty, because you'd think spending all that money would see them climb up the table, but look how far they fell. Look, when Ten Hag, he was sacked for less than this. If you said before, where he was sacked for literally not a lot after delivering them 2 trophies, Carabao and FA Cup respectively. All right, for where he was going and direction, it clearly wasn't working. And at the time, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Sacking him was seen like the right idea. Amorim had a great display against Man City with Sporting Lisbon. Everyone thought it was going to be, it was great. Oh, yeah, great. We're going to get some improvement. I think after his first game, I think he wanted to go back because it was just so, it was just that bad. And to lose, and to have that really poor performance before the Carabao. All right, they beat Villa in the last game of the season. That was probably the only interesting game on the whole day. But considering the results coming in, like every other weekend, it was some kind of loss or a draw. It's wild, and I think they spend a lot of money in the summer. They got in a lot of like new talent. They got in a lot of the kind of like boost their attacks and things, boost their squad, and it just hasn't worked. Like there is a really deep. It would, if they finished like 10th, I think we would be like. But they didn't. They finished 15th. But they were 15th.
But it also feels like every summer they seem to be signing players for the previous manager who's not going to be there. So you think about Ten Hag's first season, the players they brought in probably would have suited Oli a bit more in what he was trying to do. Although Ten Hag did come in early in the window, I think a lot of those moves could have probably suited Oli a bit more. You look at this past window, Amorim wouldn't have signed Zirkzee up front. I don't know if he would have... I mean, Dorgu got him in January, so that's not him. The back line, how many of those players would he really have brought in? Maybe Masraoui only. De Ligt has been okay under him, but the way they want to play, it's like he just got too many square pegs. He definitely wouldn't have brought in Onana.
No.
At all. And he has been a disaster for Man United since day 2, really. So I don't know. And then even you think, obviously, Ugarte was bought before him. Doesn't really have the attributes to do the job you want. McTominay getting let go now is even bigger of a crime because that's a player who comfortably would have made this system work.
And look at him now in Napoli. He's a cult hero.
Flying.
And you see the goals he's scoring. That is proper saucy goals. I'm just like, he's there, Lukaku's there. You're probably thinking, scratching your head, being like, where was where was this? Like, you know, everyone. I think a lot of the Man United fans had time for McTominay because he was there. You could almost write if Fergie could sign a player, that would be hit. He would be it.
They used to call him McSaucy.
Yeah.
We called him McVitties. But hey, look, he's back to McSaucy now. So.
Look at him now, man. He's loving life, and he's got the league to prove to show for it.
I think he's player of the season as well.
I think so, yeah.
So, like, definitely a player that you think they could do with right now because the qualities he's got on the ball, his ability to run and make things happen. I think when they had him, they used him as a sitting, shielding midfielder, which was never his game. He's always been a box-to-box player. And I think if they just given him a bit more freedom, you know, I think Ten Hag could have gotten more out of him. But they let him go. They let him go too early. And now they're paying for it. And then you look at the other players they've got. Obviously, Mason Mount has not worked out Man United in any way, shape or form. They're looking at bringing in Matthias Cunha, who's a very good player. But it's like it's a good solution at the wrong part of the pitch as your first signing. Like, they need to sort the engine room out. They need to get a midfield that functions. And I remember I saw a tweet today where someone said, Man United have an amazing ability to just tank players' careers. You think about going back, 4 seasons? They had Pogba, Ronaldo, and Bruno Fernandes as 3 of their key linchpin players, and they didn't make it work for any of them. The only one that's still got a good reputation out of the 3 is Bruno, because he's still there. But even then, he might have to be sold this summer to make room for what they want to do.
Just
because of the money. You know, and like, if he was to move on, I think he'd excel somewhere. And I think another Premier League club should definitely look at exploiting the opportunity and make things happen. But I just don't understand how they take places like that. I mean, obviously, Garnacho looks like he's going to be on his way out because the manager doesn't want him anymore. Ahmad is okay, but it's like they put too much expectation on players who are okay to good, and then it doesn't, like Kobe Mainoo.
Yeah.
He was the chosen one. People were saying, he's England's next best thing. And he's a very good player. I really like him. But you've tried to make him what he's not. He's not your saviour.
He's tried to. I get the impression they tried after that, because he had a really good year last year, especially beating Liverpool, and then being a very key part in the FA Cup final last year, beating Man City. And then they're looking at thinking, Arsenal have their Saka, we have our Saka, sort of thing. Kind of bringing them up, local lad, playing for the team, blah blah blah. But it's a lot of like expectation, and in truth for Saka as well, it's a lot of, even now in his career, the expectation on his shoulders is so big. So to put it on, but at least if you say for you, there's a bit more stability with you guys.
Yeah.
Whereas with Manchester United, to put a crumbling club, such a big like an institution like Man United on the shoulders of a boy after one good bit of a season, is so unfair to him.
And it's not helped by the fact that you think of the senior players they've got in midfield. You think of Casemiro, you think of Eriksen, just not doing enough.
Very experienced guys.
Not leading well enough. I think Bruno, Bruno's one, he's such a Marmite player, because on the one hand, you look at his numbers and his numbers are great most seasons. Some seasons they can be a bit lower than what you'd expect, but he's always making things happen. I don't always like the way he does things. Sometimes I think the way he plays football doesn't really fit the team that he's in, and he does things that's almost trying too hard, but he's always doing something to make things happen. He's trying. Can't knock a trier. But then you look around and you think, okay, Garnacho's also got that same kind of energy, but he thinks he's better than what he is. So it's never going to work. Then you look at Ahmad, who's a hard worker, but again, coming back off an injury, he's in and out of form. He just needs time, but it's just expectation. And then you think about those players, and you think about someone like Rashford, who we know has been up and down Man United. You see how he gets treated by the coach. And then it's just like, I don't understand what's going on. And I even remember like with last season with Anthony and like some of his poor performances, and you think, but he'd still get picked and other players wouldn't even get the same chances. Yeah. So I think Man United just need to have a summer to rethink their lives, and
they need a very like, there are going to be some stern talks in an office somewhere about where the club is right now. It's not even so much that you finish in the top half of the table and you didn't finish in Europe. That's an easier pill to swallow. You finished two spots above relegation, to the point that you're only a handful of points away from it. So this club is in some serious trouble, man.
But then, so the other thing is, you got to think about the big picture optics of everything, right? They're stuck with Amorim because so far, things can always change, but they've sticking with him for next season because they believe they want to give the project a try. Fine. And they realize maybe acceptance is going to take them a little while to get back to where they want to get to. That's so all well and good. The problem I see there is unless they do a proper clear out of the dressing room, why should the players listen to him anymore come the summer? Think of it this way. This guy has been playing this way of football since he came in back in October time? October time, right? Trying to play his way of playing. It doesn't work for us. We somehow get to the final of the Europa League. Somehow. Because again, like I said, the way he's playing is not meshing with the players. We get to a final and we absolutely tank the final. Why would any of them listen to him now? And why would any of them trust his ideas? If they had won the final, that would have given them more fuel to say, okay, you know what? Okay, the boss knows what he's talking about. Let's really give it a go now. Let's end the season on a high. Let's get to next season. Let's come back strong. Let's surprise everyone. Let's literally get in top 4 at a canter.
Yes.
And let's push and get to last 16 Champions League and be like, Man United are back. They will be like, wow, what happened? That was quick.
True.
The problem you have now is they could still do that next season. But with those current players, unless they lose 8 and gain 8, I don't see how they're going to try any harder. A lot of them will sit there and think, well, if we can get to October again, he'll be gone.
All over again. And then who steps in?
Yeah. So that's the biggest issue Man United have, is that by not winning this one match, it has put them in a precarious position where the players have to trust the manager, but they have no incentive to.
Yeah.
And the ownership need to give him the players that he needs to succeed, but they're in a bind now because the money that they were banking on is not coming in anymore through Champions League. So they're going to have to, Jem is going to have to throw out this whole sustainable thing and put it towards buying players. The problem with that is, optics-wise, you've fired all this stuff, you've made all these cutbacks, and now you're going to splash a whole lot of money on a playing squad that ain't of a manager that, with all due respect, is not fit to walk through Old Trafford.
True.
With all due respect, he isn't. So it's just, the optics are a mess, and I love it.
All for it. Long may it continue.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But it's a situation where, like, I think what they really could do very smart. I don't know who their director of football is, but I think they need to almost look at this as if, not as if, they need to think about it like, we need to be buying the players before people start paying attention to them. Yeah. So for example, they need to find Haaland when he was in Austria.
Yeah.
Not the Dortmund Haaland. They need to get that guy.
Yeah. Because
he was great then, but he was raw. So get him before he has the refinement and say, look, okay, we're going to bring a couple of these players in that are a bit rough, not rough around edges, but they've got that potential, but they just maybe a couple seasons before they're shining.
Like a project.
Big time project.
Like a project.
And then you supplement that with players to get you to the now. So Matheus Cunha can be your now signing. If they go for Mbeumo and he decides to go there, which will shock me,
yeah.
That's your now signing. But then you have players around it. So they go and get a striker that can help Hodgland, because the way Hodgland plays doesn't suit their way of playing. But I don't think they should give up on him as a player, because he's got something.
He's effective.
What he was doing in Italy at Atalanta, you don't lose that ability. Clearly, he needs some help to reshape his game. If they're going to play the one up front, sell Xerxes, because he doesn't really fit what you're trying to do. Baller, but doesn't fit what you're trying to do. Unless you remold him as an attacking midfielder to play off a central striker, then you could keep him. If you're going to go for the back 3 system, I don't think it works in England. But if you're going to stick with that system, then you need to have a midfield that is very functional and creative. So you need to think about who you're going to pick up from teams. Look at the teams that went down. Who's a player that we could probably pick that could do a job, or a player that's very talented, that's got something, an edge to him. Look at those. Or even look at one of the clubs that had a poor season and think, okay, we can probably pinch someone from them who might be out of favour. Yeah, for example, you look at West Ham. Kudus, there's some talk that some fans aren't happy with him. Let's put a bid in there so we can shake the water a little bit.
Test the waters a bit, yeah.
Test the water, see what happens. I think that's worth doing, and they need to just make a big push to do something different, because they can't keep doing the same thing.
Don't do it too quickly though.
Yeah, I mean, take your time. There's literally no rush. I mean, it's a World Cup year coming up next season, so players are going to perform better anyway, because they're going to want to get into the national teams. So you're going to have that uplift, but there's no rush. Take your time. And speaking of, that rush, that feeling. We've got to talk about the final in Lisbon. I've got to talk about the Arsenal win right now. I am to think how this season has panned out for the Arsenal women. With Jonas, boring Jonas, tanking our season. I was there for the qualifier against Rosenborg at in Boreham Wood, and it was a rough watch. We won. And Mariona Caldenti, that's where her song was. I don't think it was born then, but I think that's when it really spread amongst the fan base, and she heard it for not the first time, but that's the first time when she came over to the fans and they were singing it to her, and that was really amazing. To think you fast forward to the final and we get through all the adversity that Arsenal women went through this season. From the Barcelona defeat to from the Bayern Munich defeat to the Real Madrid defeat, to Lyon defeat, to turning all those games around. I looked at it and I really felt like, especially in the Champions League, that the men's and women's results were starting to parallel each other. And where the men messed up is that the women in the second leg were clinical against Lyon to make it, and the men were not clinical against PSG to make it in that tournament. And if they were, maybe this could have been a historic season where both the men and women bring home the Champions League, but that's for another year, another time. But I just really proud. I went out there to Lisbon for the game, and like the atmosphere from the fans was just phenomenal. In fact, it's really funny because pre-match the day before, it was like they had a fan park there, and there's like Arsenal fans and Barcelona fans out there all singing along and everything. And I think Arsenal fans are probably outnumbered like 2-1 or 3-1 for every Barcelona fan. There was lots of Barca fans to Arsenal fans, and we were singing chants, and you couldn't hear them. We drowned them out. Every time they tried to start something, we just drowned them out. And it wasn't even like the most complicated chants. We kept it real simple. We sang Renee's chant. We sang Arsenal chant. We sang Katie McCabe's chant. We sang Kim Little's chant. We couldn't hear them. And they kept trying to come back at us. We couldn't hear them. And it was the same at kickoff. Before kickoff, they did the UEFA Champions League anthem. Then they did North London Forever. Then they did Barcelona's anthem. Barcelona's anthem's nice, don't get me wrong. But North London Forever, it got the goosebumps going. I was like, come on, yeah. And then the game went, and I mean the day before, I was even saying to some Arsenal fans out there before, because they were like, how do you feel it's going to go? I said to them, to be honest with you, because of how Barcelona were talking in the press, I felt we were going to beat them. I mean, their president was saying when it comes to Champions League, there's only one real team that counts. The fact that a lot of them were saying we're surprised Arsenal even made it. Lyon is a team that we were expecting to play. I mean, if you'd watched Arsenal's Champions League run, you could have seen that there was a possibility that we were going to make it to the final, because we just kept second legging it. And the ironic thing is what I said actually to a friend. I said to them, or said to one of the guys, I said, listen, for me, we're going to treat this game like 2 legs in one match. So first half is the first leg. Just get through 45. Yeah. And then second leg, we'll do the job. And we scored in the second half.
Get the job done.
So I was really impressed. And I just think that it's a testament to what Renee's done with the team, how she's brought this feeling of freedom and the players can play. Because she used to be an Arsenal player. Some people don't know that. She was part of, I think, the 06, 07 squad, or one of the squads back then. She got a bad knee injury, retired. She's only in her early 30s. She's like 36, 37. She's really young. Yeah. But, she retired young, didn't get to be a part of all of that success, and then she's come back as a coach. She was managed by Emma Hayes. This is just how like full circle of life. Yeah. And then now she's come. Obviously, Emma Hayes is not there anymore. It would have been nice if Emma Hayes was still Chelsea boss, because then that would have been a nice little, But anyway,
this little feed up.
Maybe if she comes back to Chelsea, we can run that back. Yeah, Emma. But just the fact that she was able to come and like for Arsenal to be the only team in England to win the Women's Champions League. I'll say that again. The only team in England to win the Women's Champions League. So put some respect on our name. That's the first thing. And secondly, like to win it off the back of the 07 squad that is now, that mural of the Emirates. You got the 07 squad putting the Women's Champions League and the men's putting the Invincibles trophy like that. That's just how momentous that moment was. And it's been immortalized in the stadium. And then you look at what these ladies did this past weekend. And to me, I'm just like forever grateful, because it was just like on full time, I was like cheering like a madman. But then I feel like 20 minutes after that, I just sat and I was just like taking it in. I'm like, we've actually done it. Like we've actually done it. Like because no one wants to go all the way to another country to watch a game to see your team lose. I know many Man United fans had to sleep outside before the final of the Europa League. No, it's true story. Because the hotel prices got hiked up so much, they couldn't even get rooms because it wasn't worth the money. So they slept outside to see your team lose.
In the dead final as well,
To see your team lose, crazy. So that's mad. But also, I think for me, it's brought this feeling back to the whole club that actually the season hasn't been a write-off across the board. Because the men, we can kind of describe it however you want, the context of how the season played out, the injuries you had to face, the fact that with all those players injured, we still managed to stay second is incredible.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we failed at our objectives again. Let's just call a spade, we have. And a lot of that is down to bad decision-making in the summer, worse decision-making in the winter, and just not having the clinical finishing when it really mattered in the game that really counted in the running in the league and also in the Champions League. So I'm happy that we managed to stay second. Lessons have to be learnt and fast. But at the end of the day, it's another season of nothing for the men. For the women, and I think Ian Wright said it best, said, look, the women have saved the season for us. They've saved our club. And I was like, wow, if Ian Wright's saying it. Because it has changed the feeling. 10,000 fans were outside the Emirates on Monday night celebrating the trophy lift, and it was beautiful. I didn't go because I was knackered from Lisbon, but it was beautiful
to see. Parade on yesterday.
It was beautiful to see. So for me, I like the fact that there is that feeling. It's building something, and I like the fact that if you're at the men's team now, you're looking there feeling, okay, you know what, I want a bit of this next year,
and feel good feeling.
Yeah, and the Cronkays were there, or Josh was there, and he was on the pitch at full time, and the fans cheered for them. And just seeing I was watching him very closely when he was walking out on the pitch. I was looking at his face and I was like, look at what this has done for the club. My friend, please take the checkbook out. Take it out. Spend the money we need to spend this summer, please, because we can't afford to go into this season handicapped again. We can't be expecting players like Havertz to find 25 goals. We can't be expecting players like Jesus to find full fitness. And you know what I mean? I want Jesus to stay and I want him to get 20 goals. He might not, but let's get someone else in that we know can.
Yes.
And then we don't have to think about, maybe Jesus could do it, So that's my thing. But what do you think about this whole moment for Arsenal women, winning the Champions League? And I think I'll say this just for context, this Barcelona team have won the Champions League 2 years in a row. They're looking to make it a three-peat. Not only that, if you want to compare them to the men's game, think about Pep's Barcelona with Messi. That's the equivalent. They are that good. They are the best women's football team. They're rivaled by Lyon as the other best team, and then obviously teams from America who are also great. But that's just how good they are. And Arsenal beat them. Just saying. Just saying. And they thrashed Chelsea 8-2 on aggregate, who also have won the Women's Super League 3 seasons in a row.
And we're invincible.
Just saying. No, you lost the game. Just saying.
No, we're invincible. We were invincible. The only games we lost was Champions League. We're invincible.
I'm going to look it up. But let me hear your thoughts
But I mean, look, it's I think it's given a frustrating season as far as the men's concerned. I think it's given you it's been a nice kind of ending to what's been a very frustrating for the men's.
Right. I take it back. Sorry, they were invincible.
But ending on frustrating for you as far as the guys concerned, but the women's, because again, when Jonas was there at the start of the season, no one would ever seen Arsenal getting to this point, to the point that they're anywhere near the Champions League final. So the fact that to wrap it up and shows that, because you've got a good team. You do have a very, very, very good team that's more than good enough to be competing especially in the Women's Super League. For whatever reason, it just didn't work. But I think you got a good bunch of players. I mean, you got Alessia Russo there, you got Williamson there. And I think getting in Chloe Kelly, I think midway shows that, and as someone who's effective at scoring goals,
she needs to stay.
Again, showing the other side on the men's team what happens when you get someone in that knows how to score a goal. It just kind of, all right, it might not deliver you on the league front, but at the same time, if you don't have someone there to score the goals and knows how to score the goals, you're going to be shortchanged anyway. So at least then, what have you got to lose? You've got a player there who's coming off of Man City with a point to prove, and is going to help them to go and do it and winning this Champions League. It almost kind of writes itself. It's like, if it's, I'm not saying it's straightforward, but the problem doesn't need to be difficult. So you know what I mean? So to give that feeling at the end of the season is going to mean a lot to a lot of fans, because it's not just for the Arsenal women, it's for women's games in general, because this is what everyone keeps on talking about, is the exposure, the fact that it can be treated so seriously. And it's not just the women's fans that are going over there, all the fans are going over there. So who's to say that it can't be for another team, like a Liverpool, like for a Man United, or for a Chelsea, for example? Like, who's to say that it can't be done? This is going, everybody, really, in terms, everybody wins from this. You get the silverware that you were like aiming for so much this season, and the women's team gets more exposure in preparation for the new tournaments coming up. Nobody really like loses, and it's not like when the men's game where there's that animosity. I think a lot of people, a lot of fans are generally like, you know what, because the women's football still has that kind of humble, inspired beginnings about it. It hasn't reached the Galactica level that it will probably eventually reach in the next few generations.
Don't get me wrong, though. The rivalries exist. Like we don't like Chelsea. Tottenham, they're just Tottenham, innit? But Chelsea, we don't like you lot. We just don't like you at all. And next season, we're coming for you in the WSL. Don't get it twisted. All right, that's it. Carry on.
I ain't worried, but
you just had to set the record straight.
But it's like, with the stand, but it shows you the two teams, the standard raising, with your Champions League, the season that we had, the bar's now raising for everyone else to come up and step their game. So it gets funny where a lot of people seem to be frustrated because it seems that certain teams like a Chelsea or an Arsenal are monopolizing those top two spots. It's like, well, no, it's not. We're adding more. It's adding more to the game. It's bringing the game forward in ways that, isn't this what you wanted? You wanted the game to be taken more seriously. And you got a lot of male advocates like Ian Wright, for example, who loves the women's game, who talks about the women's game all the time, who's there in the women's game all the time. He's commentating. He's talking about it in his flaming podcast, for crying out loud. Isn't this what we wanted? So like I said, with things like this where, like in a way, an underdog story, because like I said, at the start of the season, this was never on the cards. We saw another Leon Barca fest, because like you said, as someone who has seen them play live as well, they are that good. They really, really aren't standards. So everybody wins. And plus, you know what? Considering your rivals at a trophy parade only a few days ago, for you then to clap back right there, that's what football is all about, man. That's what the banter is. Like, you do a trophy parade, come. We'll show your eyes as well, this is the women's team. We ain't playing around it, And I need tots.
And I want to say three quick things about that game. I think the first thing I want to say is that shout out to Renee Slagers for setting up tactically in a way that we didn't just sit back and let Barcelona attack us. We forced them to play wide because they have a striker, but aerially that's not their game. So they put crosses in and we defended it really well. Steph Catley, Katie McCabe, Leah Williamson and Emily Fox at the back were amazing. And of course, Daphne Van Domselaar. So glad that she was fit for the final, because my God, if we had to rely on Zinsberger, I would have been doing double prayers, because I went down to the Christ Redeemer statue to the prayer in the morning because I was like, I need to settle my nerves. But I would have been there all the time. Anyway, it's the first thing. Secondly, Kim Little, the way how I think the perception of her throughout the season has changed. She's had her own remontada, because first half of the season, or this first quarter, obviously under Jonas, and then the beginning of the time under Renee, there was a lot of thought of maybe this should be Kim's last season. She looked a bit leggy in some games were passing her by. It did kind of feel like, is this the end? Is this one season too far for her? Obviously, she's got a new contract now, so she's not going anywhere. But the clinic she put on, considering Barcelona's midfield three are all Ballon d'Or winners, or Ballon d'Or contenders. You got Bon Mati, you got Patry, and you've got Alessia Putellas, right? Three of the best midfield players in the world. You wouldn't have known it. The captain, Alexia, where were you? I didn't see you on the pitch. I didn't hear you there. Didn't see you. I just thought, was she even playing? Patry was okay. Bon Mati, that's my third point. Bon Mati, Lord, I've not seen a player play so good that I immediately want my club to buy them, like now. Like, I don't even want us to think about just whatever money, £50 million bid, bring her, make her the highest ever. It sounds ridiculous, women's game. I don't care. she would get the ball, Matthew, in her own half and run to our box. And I'm like, can someone stop her, please? Because she's just running. In my head, I was, she just kept running. And I was watching her, I was just like, man, she just doesn't stop. But it's not like aimless runs. Like, they couldn't touch her. Like, her dribbling ability is insane. And obviously, whenever she had a shot, it was blocked. She had one shot, went over, one shot blocked onto the crossbar. Thankfully, if you didn't give her a clear sight of goal, like whenever she did get a shot off, I think there was one, Chloe Kelly made a sensational block in the box from her, which if it wasn't blocked, it would have been 1-0.
Yeah.
Because she did a little feint and she sold the defenders, she lost them all, and I was like, oh, and all of a sudden you see Chloe Kelly come flying out of nowhere and just turn her boy here, boom, big block. I was like, yeah. Oh, anyway, every tackle, every clearance, I cheered like a
Chloe Kelly
fan.
energy right there.
But yeah, they all put everything on the line for that game. Like, I've not seen some of our players do that level of last ditch defending and just keeping the shape. But then also when we got the ball back, we caused a threat, and then the substitutions as well was brilliant. So bringing on Stina, she scores a goal, or as we often say, Stina Blackstenius, she's coming for you. She came for them. But anyway, that's enough on Arsenal. Very happy for the women. Obviously, the men, you know what to do next season. I ain't got much more to say about that. We'll have a proper review podcast about them another time and the fallout of this and what needs to happen next. And as Arteta said himself, we must win next season, which I like that talk, but you got to back it up on the pitch, my friend, because there's some things there's some improvement I want to see, and I want to see it fast, because if not, then I think questions need to be answered now. Not asked anymore. There's questions that have been asked that need to be answered.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Liverpool, because in the underdog theme, if you're looking at how their previous season ended, them being title winners was definitely not on the cards. Them being in the conversation for a title, we can argue that was possibility. And I think there was always talk about how Arne Slot would adapt to his first season. So we always thought they'd be there and thereabouts in the top 3. But to go all the way and win it, definitely unexpected. Man City's fall off this season has been beautiful to witness.
Good.
But they're looking like they're going to spend another 100 million, 200 million again this summer. We still don't have anything about those 115 charges,
No.
even though we know the court case was wrapped up back in March. So
Still waiting.
don't get that one. Season is now done, so retrospective punishment isn't really going to do much for me, but I do believe that 2 league titles could come to North London if you want to do it. I don't mind. We'll have a trophy parade. I'm that shameless. I will be the one leading that parade if it's just me. I don't care. But yeah, when you look at Liverpool, great achievement.
Very good achievement.
Well deserved. Just what would you'd say would be your thoughts on like how they have been able to, and you think about it with their signings as well, they've only really made 2 signings this season, one of which is still at his previous club. He hasn't moved over, which is the goalkeeper, Mamardashvili. The other one is Chiesa, who barely played for whatever reason. But how do you think Arne Slot has done with Jurgen Klopp's squad?
He's just instilled of willing to win. And that's sometimes half of the battle. I mean, you can argue that they're probably not like your Premier League classic team that ranks up there. Every club has, a team that where they go ahead and win the league, they don't just go ahead and win, but they win and then some. So you think of Arsenal, you think of me personally, I'm going to say your 01-02 team is better than your Invincibles. That's what I'm going to say right there.
It's not an outlandish idea. A lot of people feel that because it had a bit more explosiveness to it.
That's what I'm gonna say. But your Invincibles are still good. For Chelsea, you can go with the special ones. City, you can go for the Centurions. And even with someone like Liverpool, you could probably look at their team, the lockdown team, look at them a bit more formidable there. But what's with this team is that they just knew how to win. They could cram out of win even from the most obscure time. The amount of times when they were playing, and it shows because Alisson always, Kelleher too, deputised for an amount of time. They weren't there in necessarily the Golden Glove. That went between Sells and Raya, which shows you that a lot of teams necessarily know how to score against Liverpool, but they don't know how to beat Liverpool. And for the longest time up until, leading up to them winning the Premier League, I think they only lost twice, but doesn't necessarily mean they only conceded twice. They conceded a few goals along the way, but they knew how to win. And you know what? At bare minimum, that sometimes it is all you need. But it doesn't necessarily mean he just came with a copy and paste from Jurgen Klopp's team. Yet he still had some kind of work to do. Obviously, he had players on like contracts that were dying out. Obviously, he's lost out on Trent. He's now, officially gone. And he's had injuries along the way. He has had, not as bad as like some other teams, but he has had some injuries along the way and competing on, for the most part, on four fronts. They were top Premier League, they were top in the Champions League, and I think they still had the Carabao and the FA Cup to go. So they still had to find a way to negate that kind of really tough season that Jurgen Klopp had to do, try to do a few years ago. But when you got players, especially like your talisman, like in someone like Salah, stepping up every single time, you're never going to lose. You're never going to go, like, for one thing, even on the last day of the season where they were losing against Palace, who was it that stepped up? Mo Salah. Who did they need to break him out of the jam? Mo Salah. Who was bringing them the numbers with goals and assists for the season? Mo Salah. And that's the difference of a team that wins the Premier League against a team that doesn't have a talisman in the middle of that hole. It's someone that is clinical when they need him to be. They've just known how to win this entire season. So credit where credit's due.
That's one thing they've been really great on. And I guess the big question will be now how they are going to build on that for next season, because other teams will be looking at trying to close that gap. Obviously, you guys have got Champions League football again, so you'll be looking to try and do something in the league and not be competing for the title. Nonsense, Maresca. But you look to put up a fight. Arsenal will be hoping to get over the line for once in the league, so they'll be there. Man City will be looking to turn back the clock. Since now they've lost De Bruyne, they're going to need to find someone else to do his job. So you'd expect them to be back in contention again. I almost mentioned Man United again. I was just like, why did it? Anyway, someone else might come into the picture.
I think there's a wild card in there. Very, very outside, very, very wild card, but they've had a very strong season.
Who are you thinking?
Newcastle.
Okay, Newcastle could be a wild. I mean, they got Champions League again as well.
They got Champions League.
They will be able to keep their players.
Yep.
I don't know if they've reached the threshold where they can start spending big yet. It might be one more season, but this will help a lot with the PSR coefficient stuff. But on the topic of Liverpool and the Trent Alexander-Arnold's departure, I'm not going to get into all of that because it's for another day. But how well do you think they're going to replace him going forward? Because I know looking at Jeremy Frimpong, they obviously got Conor Bad. You can positionally replace him, but plays the right back role completely differently. And in fact, there was a pass that Trent made from his own box, his own half in the game at the weekend, which basically created a chance for Nunez, but it fell to Nunez. So nothing came of it. But even Klopp was like, wow, what a pass. I mean, Trent is like his son, so like a proud dad. But how do you see Liverpool replacing his creative influence in the team next season?
It's going to be very difficult because he started out obviously as a right back, but then to the point when you start losing a bit, I always believe that there's a place, they could Gareth Bale him where they start him and moving up because he's got the ability to do it. He's got a great right foot. He's got a good eye for linking out other players for, heading in goals. I mean, that right foot is like Beckham-esque. I mean, I remember it was a 2019 semi-final against Barcelona. I think he whips in that perfect one to Origi and gets a goal and sends them through to the final. So to find someone with that innate ability is going to be difficult. Not impossible, but they're going to... I'm not going to say going to be pining for him because I think a lot of fans have made it very clear how they feel about him going. Not necessarily that he's leaving, but he's leaving to essentially a very big rival they've had in the past, so they're going to feel some type of way about it.
And also it's the way, because if he had made it clear at the beginning of the season that actually I'm looking to move on, I think the timing of the decision and behaviour throughout the season, I think it did kind of, it's left a bitter taste. So I get it.
Yeah.
Also booing him, I don't agree with.
I don't agree because he's delivered so much. He's won pretty much everything that's possible to win in the Liverpool shirt in English football. So you can't say he hasn't delivered. He's homegrown lad. He's grown up with the club. So, and you could see on his face in the last game just how hard the decision it was for him to do that. But at the same time, it's something that he had to do. He had to, at this stage in his career, he's mid to late 20s. He wants to have that chance to go off and play with Los Blancos. Of course he does. Replacing him is going to be hard. With not so much with the ability, but with someone that knows what it meant to play at Anfield, to grow up with Anfield in the area. When you're, how the Liverpool fans, they talk about it being a special club. And for the most part, for a lot of people, it absolutely is. Liverpool is like one of the, along with Man United, they're probably, and with Man United and possibly Arsenal as well, are one of the more established Premier League teams. When you think Premier League, you think those three. And Liverpool, with the running success of Regency having right now, being back in the Premier League picture, it's gonna take time to whoever comes in especially if they bring someone in like a Frimpong, has got to understand the Liverpool way of things. They can't just come in and just do what it is. They got to understand the Liverpool way of things, because Liverpool's not just a club; it's a way of life. It's a way of life. So they have to kind of understand coming in. Arne Slott's got a little bit of work to do. Probably more work than he's had to actually win the Premier League, for crying out loud. And who is this? Who is it? Is it not Jones? Was it?
Conor Bradley.
Conor Bradley will understand it, but realise that he's got a very big hole to fill. He might relish a chance, but he also might let the occasion take over for him. So it's going to be a very kind of key position that they're going to look at. But in general, they're going to strengthen, and they're going to look real, real good.
I think Conor Bradley will be able to handle it, because he's shown that he can deputise already. So he should be able to do a good job, and then we'll see. And then last but not least, of course, Newcastle winning the Carabao to kickstart this whole trend of the underdog having their year in the lights. Big win for them. Great win. Wait, was it Man City they beat, wasn't it?
Liverpool.
Oh.
Underdog, big underdog.
big shock and surprise, that win. But I think it just started off this feel good feeling.
Yes.
Of just different teams lifting trophies. But yeah, it's just been that year. And then if you look across Europe, we've had Napoli winning the league.
Yep, very good.
We've had Bologna winning the Italian Cup. We had Stuttgart winning the German Cup. We had Aberdeen winning the Scottish Cup against Celtic. It just goes to show that it's been open this year. And much as the leagues have been won by the usual suspects, the rest of the tournaments have been quite open and fair and fun. And going into a World Cup year next season, this should be super exciting to see who's going to pull it off. And, our next episode, we're going to talk about our thoughts on the season, about our clubs. We're going to give them a score out of 5. And then we're going to just kind of do a little bit of forward projecting as to what we want to see happen in the markets, who needs to go, who needs to come, and if any managers need to start working a bit harder in case that P45 comes through the post.
Let's say they're on a pip right now. They're on a pip.
They're in that performance improvement plan, I'm telling you. We need to see a bit more. But anyway, this is us signing out. Thanks for listening as always. Let us know what you thought about this episode. Let us know which club most surprised you this season with their performances, and which club are you most looking forward to building on that next year. See you next time.
Peace.